Thank you, Madam Chairman. I want to echo the comments of my colleague from Maine, and Dr. Lubchenco, you and I have spoken several times about this fisheries issue and the dramatic impact it's having on fishermen across the country, and specifically for my concern about fishermen in Florida. We had a rally last week where fishermen came up from Florida and came from all over the country to talk about the dire situation that they're in. And as you and I have spoken about, fishermen care about the fish stock because it's their livelihood. So they are very concerned about making sure that the fish stock is healthy, and they are for regulations that are reasonable in order to preserve the fish stock because it's their way of life. But what I'm hearing from the fishermen in Florida, folks like Bob Zales, who is here helping to organize the event, is that in the red snapper fishery, that they're seeing more red snapper than that they've seen in 3 generations. Yet there's these moratoriums on fishing that are preventing them from operating their charter boats, which is putting them out of business. And these people are really hanging by a thread. So I want to echo the comments of Senator Snowe on how the money is being spent. And I haven't come down one way or the other yet on this fish sharing program, but certainly I think we can all agree that we need the money to be spent on getting the proper scientific analysis and getting independent analysis so that we know that the decisions that are being made are appropriate. Because the word from the fishermen is that there is a huge disparity as to what the statistical information is saying versus their experiential experience, what they're finding when they're actually going out and fishing. So in terms of these dollars that are going to be spent and cooperative research, do I understand that to mean that that's going to be research with independent folks to find out whether or not the information we're obtaining on the quality of the fishery is accurate?
The cooperative research programs are typically programs that involve NOAA scientists and fishermen themselves, and oftentimes academic scientists who are working collaboratively together to get information about the size of a fish population, for example. And I think those programs have shown to be extraordinarily effective in having everybody have confidence in the data, and you clearly recognize the importance of those programs.
Is there enough money in here to do that on an expedited basis for, say, the Gulf fisheries so that we can know that the data that we're using to evaluate whether we're going to close a fishery is appropriate?
There's not enough money in the budget to do all the cooperative research programs that probably need to be done. As you are well aware, constructing a budget involves trade-offs, and this was as much as was possible given other considerations. But it would be, I think, this is an area where I think there's a much greater need than is reflected in the budget.
Well, I just want to make the point that we need to be sounding the alarm. This is not a situation that's a problem 6 months from now. This is not a situation that's a problem a year from now. This is a situation where right now families who have been fishing for generations are going out of business. They are losing their livelihood. And when they lose their livelihood, not only does that way of life go away, not only do they lose their jobs, but the diner down the street where the people who came in to charter the fishing boat used to eat goes out of business. And the hotel where they used to stay goes out of business. And we're in a time where we're talking about a jobs bill, and we're putting in regulation based upon science that people don't believe in, that is putting people out of work in historic industries. I mean, the fishing industry in this country is as old as this country is. And it is a huge way of life for people in Florida. And you know we've got more recreational fishermen than any place in America. And these folks who've been out there generation after generation, they are some of our oldest families in Florida. So I'm very concerned that we work on this right now, that we have an action plan right now to figure out whether we can get some better science, because it's the old expression, you know, garbage in, garbage out. If the science is bad and we're making draconian decisions based upon bad science or science that we can't believe in, that's affecting people's lives, that's wrong. Senator Schumer has a bill, as you may know, to amend the Magnuson-Stevenson Act to allow for some more flexibility when fisheries improve, to look at the economic impact and to not necessarily be on this 10-year time frame. Do you have an opinion about that legislation?
Senator, I'm happy to work with members of Congress to try to figure out how we can get through the very real challenges that you just highlighted. I haven't examined the bill in detail, and so I'm not prepared to comment on it. But I do share the concern about the very dire situation that exists in many coastlines and for many fishing communities, both commercial and recreational. And given the very serious context of a bad economy, it's even worse. With respect to the red snapper fishery, I understand that fishermen may not have confidence in the data, but this is not a situation where we don't have good information. I think the challenge with something like red snapper is that the calculations about what is a sustainable level of fishing take into account what size the fish are. And what many of the fishermen are seeing are lots and lots of younger fish, and are assuming that that means that they are recovered and there are plenty out there. And in fact, it's important for those younger fish to get larger and reproduce for the future health of the fishery. And the complication with red snapper is very much that there is a directed fishery. They are also bycatch in other fisheries, for example, grouper. And so they get hammered both directly and indirectly. And we have been working hard to try to find the right balance in allowing some fishing to happen, but not preventing the recovery of those stocks. Let me just conclude by saying that I very much want to work with you. I appreciate the urgency of this. And I think that we could put together some ideas about how we can not preclude the future health of the fishery and not lose a lot of important jobs right now.
Well, I appreciate that. I want to renew in closing my offer to you to come down to Florida and let's go on a fishing boat and see these red snapper, because what my fishermen are telling me is not only are there many red snapper, but there are big red snapper, not just the juvenile fish. Mm-hmm. In fact, people who've been fishing for 45 years say they've never seen as many in quantity or as in size, to the point, and I think this is important for us to understand the practicality of how fishing works. So they're not allowed to catch red snapper. So they go out on their fishing boat with a group trying to catch something else, and all they're catching is red snapper. So they have to throw the fish back because they're not supposed to be catching red snapper, which means they're like feeding dolphins, which they're not supposed to be doing either, but the dolphins follow the boat out. So the practical effect is that they're trying to catch around the red snapper, and there's so many of them, it's difficult to do. So practically, I'm not sure we're even achieving the effect that we want to anyway, assuming the science was good. So I believe your sincerity on this issue. And my point is that we can't wait till May or August or January to figure this out. We got to figure it out right now.
I look forward to taking you up on your offer.
Okay.
And also, it's pretty obvious that there is a need for having better exchange of information between the scientists who are working on this and the fishermen, so that everybody can see the same information and have a real open exchange of information and perspectives. I think that would be very helpful.
Okay, thank you, Administrator. Madam Chair, I don't have any more questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.